There are moments in life where silence isn't just the absence of noise. It's a reminder. That was exactly what I felt as I stood on the porch of the house I used to call home, my hand hovering over the new brass doorbell that Erica had installed after Mom passed. It was Thanksgiving. And this year, dinner wasn't at Mom's house. It was here, Erica's house, even though she still liked to call it the family home, which was funny, because I was family, and I didn't live here anymore. My breath fogged in the Indiana air as I waited. The wind carried the scent of roasted turkey and cinnamon candles. Familiar, almost welcoming. Almost. Behind the door, I heard laughter. Plates clinking. A kid's voice, probably Erica's youngest, Ben, shouting something about getting the wishbone this time. Then the lock clicked. The door opened, and there she was, Erica, gorgeous as always, effortless in a beige sweater dress, holding a wine glass like it was part of her hand. Her hair was curled. Her smile was polished. "Diane, you made it," she said, as if I hadn't RSVP'd 3 weeks ago, as if we hadn't exchanged stiff texts last night confirming the time. "Would have been weird if I didn't," I replied, stepping inside. The warmth of the house hit me instantly. It wasn't just the heat. It was the memory of where everything used to be. The same entry rug Mom picked out at that flea market in Bloomington. The painting of the lake we all used to hate, but never replaced. The smell of sage and stuffing. Except everything had been rearranged. Modern lighting, new furniture, open concept. Mom's armchair, gone. Her record collection, replaced with a sleek Bluetooth speaker playing holiday jazz. Even the hallway photos had changed. My childhood face had been cropped out of one entirely, a group shot from Erica's wedding where, mysteriously, I was now just an elbow and a wine glass. I forced a smile and handed Erica the pumpkin pie I'd baked. "Oh," she said, "we already have 2, but thank you." "Well," I said, setting it on the counter, "anyway, now you have 3. Dinner was in 2 hours. Just enough time for polite conversation, polite wine sipping, and polite avoidance of anything that actually mattered. Nathan was there, our cousin, who always sided with whoever poured him a second drink. So was Aunt June, who still thought I was in law school. And Erica's husband, Steve, who barely made eye contact, but had a firm handshake ready like he was sealing a business deal every time we said hello. I kept my coat on for longer than I should have. That house, my mother's house, was warm, but it didn't feel safe. At one point, I wandered down the hall toward the back room, the one Mom had always used as a sewing room. It was locked. That used to be my room when I was in high school. Now it was Steve's office, and I didn't have the key. That, in a nutshell, was the metaphor. Let me pause here for a second. To those of you listening and relating more than you expected, here's something small but important. Backhand index pointing, right? If this story pulls at something in you, that quiet, tight place in your chest, I'd love for you to subscribe to this channel and leave a comment. Your voice matters. Stories like this deserve to be seen, and so do you. Back to the story. The moment the will was read, something inside me had shifted. Mom had been gone only 6 weeks. We were still sorting through casseroles and condolence cards when the attorney sat us down in her favorite sunroom and read the words like they were any other email. "The house," he said, "will go to Erica. Full title transfer. Per Jeanette Whitman's revised instructions, dated 8 months prior." I didn't speak, didn't cry, didn't ask why, because I already knew. Erica was the shiny one, the youngest, the successful one, the one who flew in for visits with expensive scarves and left early with bags of things Mom said she could take. Meanwhile, I was the one who stayed, the one who canceled trips to sit by Mom's bed, who took her to every doctor appointment, who learned to change her oxygen tank when the nurses were late, Apparently, those things don't fit into estate plans. Erica told me afterward that Mom thought it was just easier this way. Easier for who? Certainly not for me, the daughter who now paid rent to live in a third-floor walk-up while watching my childhood memories get flipped into entertaining spaces. Certainly not for the part of me that had always believed that effort counted for something. Back in the dining room, the turkey was carved. The toasts were made. The laughter was real, but distant, like I was watching it through a pane of glass. Then, mid-dinner, Nathan asked the question that cracked it all open. So, Erica, are you keeping the house long-term or planning to sell? The room stilled. I saw Erica stiffen. We're considering options, she said, eyes flashing toward me. You're selling it? I asked calmly. It's a lot of upkeep, she said. Steve's job might move us to Connecticut, and honestly, we could use the equity. So, the house Mom gave you, the one you didn't grow up in alone, the one you remodeled and renamed, that's just going on the market? She opened her mouth, closed it. Everyone else looked at their plates. I stood up, not loudly, not dramatically. I just stood. Excuse me? I said, I need some air. I walked outside, back to the porch, the same one I stood on that morning. The wind had picked up. My hands trembled, but I wasn't cold. I was done. Done pretending this version of family was enough. Done trying to find my place in a house that had closed its doors. And deep down, I knew this wasn't the betrayal. It was the beginning of the reckoning. The night air outside wasn't cold, but it stung. I leaned against the porch railing, staring at the gravel driveway. My car sat there quietly, exactly where I had parked it, perfectly obedient, just like I'd always been. Inside, muffled voices buzzed, trying to recover the warmth I'd taken with me when I stood up and walked out. I wasn't being dramatic. I didn't storm off. I simply left the table. That seemed to confuse everyone more than anything else. A few minutes later, the door creaked open behind me. It was Aunt June. Of course. Honey, she said, stepping onto the porch, you all right? Peachy, I replied, staring into the dark. She didn't mean it like that. Didn't mean what? That she's selling the house. That Mom left her everything, and we're supposed to pretend it was fair. She sighed, the kind of sigh women inherit from their mothers and pass down to daughters, a resignation more than an exhale. I think she just doesn't see things clearly. No, I said, she sees exactly what she wants to. June patted my hand awkwardly and headed back inside, muttering something about dessert. I waited a full 5 minutes before following, not to make a scene, but because I didn't want to miss what came next. The dining table had been cleared of dishes, but not tension. Dessert sat untouched. In the middle, 3 pies, half a cheesecake, and that ridiculous pecan tart Erica always ordered from a place she swore was artisanal. I took my seat in silence. No one looked at me directly. Erica stood at the end of the table, refilling wine glasses with forced cheer. So, who wants coffee? Or brandy? Nathan muttered something about driving. Steve reached for the cheesecake. Then came the moment. The one sentence. Casual, innocent, and completely damning. Aunt June, attempting to cut the silence like pie crust, turned to Erica and said, "It was kind of your mom to update the will for you, especially after that rough patch with Steve's business. That must have been a relief." Huh. Silence. Forks froze midair. Even the Bluetooth jazz paused, like the universe wanted to hear this part better. Erica blinked, forced a laugh. Oh, it wasn't about that. She just wanted to keep things simple. June said, sipping wine. Well, still nice timing. Giving you the house right when your accounts were frozen? That's love. My spine stiffened. You're what? I said. Erica didn't answer. Nathan looked up, confused. Wait, what happened with Steve's business? Nothing, Erica said quickly. Just some temporary issues last year. You mean this year? June said, too tipsy to realize she was burning bridges. Right before Jeanette passed. Don't you remember? Erica was panicked about the loan default and the IRS letter, and June, Erica snapped. But it was too late. Everyone was looking at her now. Not with anger. With clarity. Because the math was easy. Mom revised the will less than a year before she died. Right around the time Erica and Steve's financial rough patch was quietly happening. Right around the time I was spending weekends spoon-feeding her pureed carrots and sleeping on that god-awful pull-out couch in the den. So that's why, I said softly. Erica turned to me. Her eyes were wide, but not apologetic. No, that's not why. She gave you the house so you wouldn't lose yours, didn't she? It wasn't like that. Then what was it like, Erica? What story did you tell her that made her cut me out completely? Silence. Even Steve stared at his plate. I didn't ask for the house, she said finally. Mom offered. People offer things when they're desperate to help, I said. You just said yes. She didn't reply, but the way her jaw clenched, that said everything. Nathan was the first to speak. So wait, Diane didn't get anything. I got a blender, I said flatly, and a letter. One of those "you've always been so dependable" notes. Like, that should cover everything. Aunt June looked horrified. Jeanette wouldn't do that. She didn't, I said, until someone gave her a reason to. Erica poured herself a fresh glass of wine and sat down, suddenly exhausted. What do you want me to say, Diane? That I'm sorry? That I manipulated a dying woman? I want you to mean whatever you say. Then here it is, she said, voice low. I was drowning. Steve's business imploded. We had no safety net. I told Mom how bad it was. She asked how she could help. I didn't ask for the house, but I didn't say no either. She looked up at me. And you? You never asked for anything. Ever. Maybe she thought you didn't need it. I didn't. I replied. But that doesn't mean I didn't deserve it. The silence that followed was heavy, but it wasn't hollow. It was a silence filled with truth. Finally, I didn't cry, didn't yell. I reached for a slice of pie and took a bite. It tasted like the truth, bittersweet, flaky, and satisfying. I didn't drive home that night. Instead, I checked into a roadside in 20 minutes from Erica's house, one of those places with vending machines that only take quarters and shower heads that barely missed. I wasn't ready to walk back into my life just yet, not until I could figure out what, if anything, was still mine. At 3 a.m., I was lying in the motel bed with the remote in my hand and nothing on the screen, the room humming with the sound of forced air from a vent that couldn't decide between hot or cold. And then I remembered the letter, the one Mom left me. I had read it once, back when the lawyer handed it to me in that emotionless manila envelope, the same day he read the will aloud and quietly passed a keychain to Erica. Back then, I hadn't had the heart to do more than skim it. It felt like a condolence prize, a bandage made of paper. But now I needed something real. I pulled the letter from my overnight bag. The envelope was still creased where I had hastily folded it the first time. I unfolded the page, sat on the edge of the bed, and began to read. My Diane, if you're holding this, then I'm already gone, and I'm sorry you had to hear the will in a room full of people instead of just from me. There are things I wish I'd said better, or sooner. You were always the one who stayed. You didn't just come through in the storms. You were the umbrella. But I never wanted you to feel like staying meant owning the weight of everything. Erica needed more. Or maybe she just asked louder. But you were my anchor. The house? That was a hard decision. I told myself she needed something concrete, something she could hold on to. I thought you'd already built your home in your heart. I stopped reading, bit the inside of my cheek. Then I kept going. But I know you, Diane. I know you're the type to read between the lines, to notice the missing parts as much as the printed words. So if something doesn't feel right, look again. Love, always. Mom, look again. I read that line over and over. It sat there like a dare, not emotional closure, but a breadcrumb. I turned the page over. Nothing. I held the letter up to the light. Just paper. Then I remembered something odd. The day I got the letter, it was folded inside a thin lavender note card, Mom's stationery. But the note card had felt heavier than it should have. Heavier than one sheet of paper. I pulled the original envelope from my bag. Inside it, I found the card again. This time, I peeled back the glued edge. Slowly, carefully, and there it was. Another piece of paper, folded flat. A receipt, faded but intact. Whitman and Birch Title Services. Transfer of joint ownership agreement. Signed, Jeanette Whitman and Diane Whitman. Effective date, March 14th, 2023. My breath caught. That was before the will had been updated, before the lawyer meeting, before Mom died. She had already put me on the deed. She just never told anyone. I sat there, heart pounding, and then it hit me. That back room, the one locked during Thanksgiving dinner, the one that used to be mine. She had transferred partial ownership. No wonder she told me to look again. By morning, I was outside the office of Whitman and Birch before they even unlocked the door. The clerk was kind. A young woman who offered me coffee and clicked quickly through their digital records. She found the transfer immediately. It was filed with a privacy restriction. She explained, "Your mother requested it not be posted to the public log until her death." But the wills and deeds aren't always coordinated. This form legally stands. You are, by title, a co-owner of the property. I sat there in silence. Would you like a certified copy? I nodded. 2 days later, I stood again on Erica's porch. Same house, different woman. She opened the door with her usual grace, her tone syrupy sweet, but her eyes tense. "Diane, I wasn't expecting you. I figured." I stepped inside, without waiting. She followed, clutching a mug of something herbal. "I hope this isn't about Thanksgiving." "It's not." I handed her the certified document. She read it once, then again, and then she sat down. "She gave it to you?" she whispered. "She gave it to us. Joint ownership." Erica said, "Nothing. You didn't take the house from me," I continued, "but you tried to keep it." She nodded slowly. "Why didn't she tell me?" "Maybe she didn't trust that you'd share." Silence. "So what do you want?" she finally asked. "The back room is mine," I said. "You're not renting it to anyone. You're not locking it. And if you sell, I sign off." "Fine." "Also, Mom's records, her journals, the sewing machine, the lake painting, I want those." She nodded. "And one more thing," I added. "You don't get to decide the family history anymore." Erica's face broke, not into tears, not into a smile, into relief, because maybe she'd been carrying a guilt she couldn't name. That night, I unlocked the back room. Everything had been boxed, sealed, or tucked away. I opened one carton labeled M's Room, Private, and found a notebook. Inside, letters, dozens of them, written from Mom to me, dates spanning years, words she never mailed. "Today you refilled my meds without me asking." I cried in the bathroom. "You didn't know." Erica called, said she was busy. "You stayed until midnight." I gave her the house because I was scared she'd fall apart. I knew you'd rebuild anything. For the first time in months, I cried. Not because I was angry, because I was seen. The attorney's office hadn't changed. Still sterile. Still overly beige. still designed to feel official enough to swallow discomfort. I sat in the same leather chair I had the day Mom's will was red. Only this time, I wasn't the forgotten daughter with folded hands and silent grief. I was a co-owner. I was someone with receipts. Mr. Petrov, the family lawyer, looked up as I entered. Diane, he said, standing. This is unexpected. Not nearly as unexpected as your last reading of the will. He gestured for me to sit. I didn't. I reached into my bag, pulled out the certified deed transfer, and set it on his desk. He leaned forward. Read it once. Then again, slower. Then reached for his glasses. This changes things. Yes, I said. It does. For a long moment, the room was quiet except for the faint buzz of a cheap overhead light and the ticking of a wall clock. Your mother filed this independently? He asked. March 14th, 9 months before she passed, and 8 months before the revised will. And she never informed this office. Apparently not. She did say I was good at reading between the lines. He exhaled, removed his glasses, and folded his hands. This document legally makes you joint owner of the property. So the will distributes only the assets not covered by separate title transfers, which means Erica doesn't solely own the house. Correct. I nodded, letting it settle. Then I asked the real question. Was she ever supposed to? Petrov hesitated. Jeanette came in, conflicted. She felt Erica needed something secure. But she mentioned a previous title update. I asked if she wanted to nullify it. She said no. So you knew. I suspected, but legally, if she chose not to revoke that document, it stands. Yet you never mentioned it during the reading. It wasn't in my possession. He paused, then added, off the record, I think she wanted you to find it, on your own. That sounded like Mom, loving in the quietest, most maddening ways, never handing over answers, only nudging you toward them. So I said, what now? You can file for full claim of joint ownership and freeze any attempts to sell the property. And if I don't, you remain silent. Let Erica believe it's hers. Let the house get listed. Watch from the sidelines while she decides its future. I stood. Draw up the freeze, I said. He nodded, reached for his tablet, and started typing. 3 days later, Erica called. You filed a claim? She asked. Yes. You didn't even warn me. Neither did you when you listed the place on Zillow. She sighed. You're punishing me. No, I said. I'm stopping you. There's a difference. Silence. Then, softer. What do you want? A sit down. Just us. To talk about what's next. No lawyers? No lawyers. We met at a cafe halfway between our homes. Neutral ground. No inherited chairs or lingering ghosts. She wore sunglasses she didn't take off, even indoors. I brought the notebook, the one with Mom's letters to me. I slid it across the table. Read them. She flipped through the pages. Her hands trembled. Her voice cracked only once. I didn't know she wrote all this. Neither did I, until she made sure I did. We sat in silence for 20 minutes, just two sisters, not co-owners, not rivals, just two daughters, finally acknowledging the same mother. So, Erica whispered, what now? We don't sell, I said. Not yet. We open it. For what? A scholarship, a retreat, a space for women who've been erased by people who loved them. That's not what the house was for. No, I said, it's what she was for. And it's what I'm for now. To my surprise, she nodded. Then let's do it. That night, I returned to the house. Our house. I unlocked the back room again, hung Mom's painting back on the wall, put the sewing machine on the desk where it belonged. Then I poured a glass of red wine, sat on the floor, and watched the shadows flicker across the room like ghosts finding their rest. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was visiting someone else's life. I felt home. The first morning we worked on the house together, it rained. Soft, persistent rain, the kind that blurs window panes and softens footsteps. Fitting, really. Nothing about this stage of our story needed to be loud. Erica arrived wearing her old college hoodie, one I hadn't seen since Mom's 60th birthday party, and carried a box labeled Kitchen Sentimental. I brought Mom's measuring cups, she said quietly, the ones with the chipped edges. I nodded. We didn't hug, but we didn't avoid each other either. That felt like progress. We started by clearing the pantry, finding traces of our childhood between expired jars of jam and a rusted cookie tin full of yellowed recipe cards. Mom had terrible handwriting, but her notes read like love letters. Add more cloves. Diane always liked it spicier. Skip nutmeg if Erica visits. Remember 2003? It felt good. Not warm exactly, but necessary. Like breathing after a long silence. By noon, we'd made a list. Archive Mom's recipes into a keepsake booklet. Restore the garden bed behind the kitchen. Paint the back room light blue, like it used to be. Open the home quarterly for creative retreats. Small ones, nothing flashy. We sat in the living room with chipped mugs of coffee, surrounded by half-packed boxes and memories. It's strange, Erica said. Working with you. It was stranger being ignored. I replied. She nodded. I never thought I'd say this, but thank you for freezing the sale, for not turning this into a war. I looked at her for the first time in years, not through resentment, but realism. You didn't give me a reason to trust you, Erica. I just decided to act like you might give me one. The next day, the call came from Mr. Petrov. Diane, something's come up, he said. A final envelope. From your mother. We didn't know it existed. It was locked in a separate file labeled post-distribution only. My stomach flipped. Who's it addressed to? Both of you. You and Erica. That afternoon, we sat in the lawyer's office again, side by side this time. The envelope was cream-colored, sealed in wax with our mother's initials. Petrov placed it between us like it might explode. Shall I leave you? He asked. We both shook our heads. He sliced the seal open carefully and unfolded the letter inside. Then read. To my daughters. If you're reading this, it means the dust has settled. I hope you've spoken honestly. I hope you found the edges of each other again. There are things you both deserve from me that I did not give equally. And perhaps that's the root of every story. What is given, what is withheld, and why? Erica, you are dazzling, but you've always been fragile in ways you hid from others. I tried to shore you up with things when what you needed was accountability. Diane, you were my ballast, my anchor, the one I didn't worry about, which was its own kind of cruelty. I leaned on you and called it fairness. Erica looked down. My throat tightened. This house was never just a structure. It was my attempt at repair. You were both meant to live in it, not together necessarily, but in shared trust. What's in the back closet, the cedar one, is my final gift. Use it only if you agree, and only if you're willing to create something better from all of this. Petrov folded the paper. No one moved. That night, we opened the cedar closet together. Inside, a small wooden chest. Erica reached in and opened it slowly. Inside, neatly stacked, were 5 checks, each made out to the Whitman Legacy Fund, signed and dated from a joint account we didn't know existed. Each check was for $10,000. There was also a printed mission statement. Support for women over 40 returning to education after caregiving. Erica gasped. This was her plan all along, she whispered. She didn't want the house to be the gift. I said she wanted what came from it to be. That weekend, we registered the domain. filed for nonprofit status, created a mission board, drafted a launch letter. We argued over logo colors, cried over pie crusts, laughed at a typo that called it the Whiteman Fund. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. And it was finally beginning. The foundation launch was held in the garden behind the house. It wasn't fancy. We'd strung warm lights across the hedges, lined folding chairs in soft rows, and let the scent of lilacs do most of the decorating. But the women who came, they were radiant. Nurses in scrubs, teachers on sabbatical, mothers who'd once given up everything. Some were in their 50s. One was 72. Every one of them had a story and a fire. That night, it felt like the house had found its heartbeat again. Erica stood beside me under the trellis. Gone was the blazer and curated perfection. She wore jeans, a blue blouse, and a pin with Mom's initials, the same one she used to wear during PTA meetings in the 90s. I took the mic first. This house, I said, has been called a lot of things: a family home, a responsibility, a burden, a gift. But today, it becomes what Mom always wanted it to be, a place that makes things possible. There was quiet applause. Then someone stood. Her name was Celia, 46, single mom, lost her job in retail during the pandemic. When I got the email about the fund, she said, voice shaking, I thought it was a mistake, that someone like me wasn't supposed to get second chances. But I read your mother's mission, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel invisible. The crowd stilled. Erica reached for her hand, and I knew we had done something right. The following morning, we sat in the sunroom with coffee and almond croissants, sorting through donation slips and thank you cards. She would have loved this, Erica said, reading a handwritten note from a woman named Trina who wanted to return to school for accounting. She would have been bossy about it. I smiled, told us to use real tablecloths and not the fold-up ones from Dollar General. We laughed. It felt real. Whole, even, until the doorbell rang. Erica answered it. I heard murmurs. Then, Diane, you need to see this. Standing in the doorway was a man in his mid-50s. Weathered face, clean but tired clothes, a presence that didn't match anyone from our invite list. Hi, he said, tipping his cap. I'm Reggie. Jeanette was my aunt. My stomach dropped. Reggie. Cousin Reggie, Erica echoed. The last time we saw him, we were teenagers. He'd left Indiana years ago after a falling out with Grandma. Sorry to drop in, he said, pulling a folded letter from his coat. But I think we need to talk. It's about the house. We sat at the kitchen table. He unfolded the letter. It was written in Mom's handwriting, but older, less steady. To Reggie. I know you didn't expect this, but I'm leaving a note to explain what was never settled properly. This house, it was purchased on land my father once co-signed in both our names, mine and your mother's. There was never a formal split. I thought it was resolved, but it wasn't. If you find this and you want to claim what's rightfully yours, I won't blame you. The letter was dated over 20 years ago. Silence. Erica paled. You're saying the land under the house isn't just ours? I'm saying I don't want a war, Reggie replied, but I might have a legal claim. I just want to understand what's happening here. I stared at the letter and at the man who could undo everything. The fund, the future, the peace we had barely begun to believe in. Why now? I asked, because I saw the launch posted online, the family name, the address, and because Mom, my mom, always said things were left unresolved. I didn't want to believe it. But now, I think I have to. That night, I couldn't sleep. Erica stood in the doorway of my room, holding tea. If he presses this, we could lose everything, or we could make room for the truth. She sat beside me. You'd really share this? If Mom taught us anything, I said, it's that legacies rot in silence. The next day, we met Reggie at the cafe. We brought the deed, the mission statement, the photos. We let him read every word. When he was done, he looked up. You made something good. We tried, I said. He nodded. Then let me try too. I'll talk to my lawyer, see if there's a way to release claim. Or maybe I buy in, become a silent partner. Erica blinked. We'd named each room after someone who had helped us along the way. The kitchen was June's corner, in honor of our aunt who'd finally stopped sipping wine long enough to volunteer for the board. The back patio was called Ben's Step, for Erica's son, who helped us lay down the pavers even though he claimed manual labor was medieval. And the front room, the one with the bay window, where Mom used to drink tea and watch squirrels ruin her bird feeder, that one we called Jeanette's View. There's something bittersweet about building the life you thought you'd inherit. But maybe that's what legacy really is, not what gets handed to you, but what you decide is worth passing on. We didn't erase the past. We used it as the foundation. 3 nights ago, I sat with Erica in the living room, both of us barefoot, sharing a slice of leftover cherry pie and rereading some of Mom's letters. There was one I hadn't seen before, folded neatly into a book Erica had found in a storage bin. The letter read, "To both my girls, if you've made it this far together, then I've done something right. Or maybe you did. Either way, thank you. If this house is still standing, then so are you. Make it sing. Make it useful. Make it nothing like the silence I left too often. I loved you both differently, but deeply. Don't spend your life trying to balance what I failed to. Just be better than I was. Together." We didn't speak after reading it. We didn't need to. And now, to the beautiful community watching and listening to this story, if any part of this resonated with you, if you've ever felt overlooked in your own family, if you've ever inherited silence instead of understanding, if you've ever rebuilt from a crack instead of a clean slate, subscribe to this channel. Books, comment below with your story, or your mother's, or your sister's, or the one no one believed in. We're building something here too. A legacy made from truth, not just tradition. Because some stories aren't just told. They're reclaimed.